Hi guys, so my name is Vakas and I'm going to do a review of Superman today. Just watched it yesterday and I have to say that I am really not very impressed with the movie. And that's not because I am a hardcore Zack Snyder fan. I I have watched Smallville all seasons even after it started dragging on at the very end in the last 2-3 seasons, and I absolutely loved that series to death. All the music, especially this soundtracks, were like amazing in that one. I've watched the Christopher Reeves movies as well. Not all of them. I think I watched the Donner Cut, which was part two. I think I saw a little bit of part one. I didn't see the whole thing. Then I watched three, and I think there was a fourth one as well, but that I didn't watch. But I know the story overall, and then came the movie which had that iconic shot of Superman being shot in the eye. Uh, I liked that one as well for very different reasons. And then we had the Snyder Cut, which was also the Snyder version of Superman, which was part one and two, and a little bit of Superman in the Justice League. Uh, Honestly, sad that it didn't grow to see its complete conclusion, and we got to see the final version of Superman in that. And we never saw that fight with the big bad dark side, but that would have been amazing. So coming to this one, this is James Gunn reimagining of Superman, and he's basically what he's done is he's gone back to the Christopher Reeves style of Superman. You can honestly see the intent to turn Superman into the cool, nice, decent guy that he used to be before he got into Zack Snyder's hands and became that dark, gritty superhero that we all know. Uh, so this is back to the farm boy roots. Very, I think if I were to honestly say it, it's basically kind of like a mix between what they did with the Superman's character in Smallville and what they did with Superman's character in maybe the Donner Cut Part Two, the original Christopher Reeve Superman, and Part Three. So think there were two cuts of the movie. The Superman two movie with Christopher Reeves. There were two directors. Uh, which was shocking for me, kind of, to realize that WB has been doing the same thing for like years at this point. Because the original Donner Cut thing happened in like 80s or something. So yeah, that was fun to find out about. But the way they structured the movie, the new guy, the Whedon of the 80s, that guy, the kind of Superman that he portrayed was very different from the Superman that uh, we we basically all saw later on in the Snyder version. Fundamentally different, very light-hearted characters in the earlier version of the movies, and I think that is what James Gunn was hoping to bring back: the bright colors, getting out of the moody and gritty atmosphere that Zack Snyder was building for this character, which is, I think, in some ways good and on the right track, but there are a few failings that happen because of that. And I know there's a lot of controversy around this movie regarding American politics that's going on right now about whether this movie is woke or not. I can conclusively say, from a third person perspective, somebody looking on from the outside, as a person living in Pakistan who follows American politics partially, not very closely, but enough to know what's going on and what the major camps are and what the major ideologies are. I would say that this movie does have very slight modern day political leanings in it, and you can easily interpret them to be as such. Because the central plot is about Superman interfering in another country's occupation of another country, which is very close to what geopolitics is right now, especially if you look at Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine. Uh, what James Gunn has done in in his wisdom is to portray the plight as if it's basically Russia Ukraine, but it's also Israel Palestine. And I think that's because he didn't want to get attacked for it or something. But you can see the similarities between the way he portrays the people. So Ukrainians are way more, at least, adept at fighting the Russians, and they at least have weapons. But the characters that fight the Russians in this one are mostly brown people, but they have no weapons. And it's kind of like it looks like a scene out of Gaza, honestly, the way you look at it. Especially the last, in the third half, when they actually stand against the army that is well equipped. You start feeling echoes of IDF versus the people of Gaza, and that's not even just my biased opinion. You just look at it and you're like, okay, that does not look like Ukrainians to me. This is not Russia versus Ukraine at this point. So there were a lot of narrative choices that it didn't really jive with. And I'm not talking about the adding of the modern geopolitical climate into the movie as part of maybe a marketing component, or maybe something to align to one audience or the other, if you're speaking about left versus right or whatever. The movie's marketing campaign actually heavily leaned onto the immigration issue and the ICE raids that are happening in the USA right now, with reporters explicitly being given talking points, or maybe the reporters picking that up on their own. With the marketing of this movie, if you go watch, there's this guy who's interviewing all the actors, asking that Superman is an immigrant story, and there are people on the right that are not enjoying this, so what are your thoughts about it? All that stuff. So the marketing is at least leaning into the immigrant angle and the ICE thing that is happening in the US right now, while the other part is already happening the way it's happening. So yeah, that's a thing in this movie. Now, coming to the story itself, I had narrative whiplash from the word go. The opening scene is Superman falling out of the sky. He's already wearing a suit. So we don't get that reimagining of James Gunn's origin story. He basically avoided doing that, letting us try to find our own balance into what kind of Superman this is. And I personally, from looking at the movie, fell between, somewhere between Smallville and Christopher Reeves. Honestly, that is where that Superman landed for me. Not completely Smallville, but not completely Christopher Reeves. He is a Boy Scout. He is a very fresh-faced person, somewhat experienced in combat, but combat was not the major focus of this movie, which I think is to its detriment, as there were some really good fight scenes and really innovative combat moves that were shown off, even by Superman, but they were too limited. I was expecting there was going to be more of a combat focus on Superman, on this Superman, to show how this Superman is way more different than the Snyder Superman. But yeah, the best combat scenes are not from Superman, it's from the auxiliary characters. Specifically, Mr. Terrific has an amazing combat scene that I really enjoyed watching. And yes, Superman does have exactly one scene in which you start thinking, okay, this is, in the same breath, you can call it's the best combat scene, but also the scariest combat scene that you've seen from Superman, when you realize how truly powerful he is, and there's absolutely no stakes whatsoever when it comes to a character like him. It's the evil Saitama style moment when you think about it, because uh, yeah, that moment is amazing. For those that really want to know, I'm gonna go into the spoiler right now, so pause this and like watch it 10-20 seconds later. It's the final scene when all the Raptor Squad agents, the flying Iron Man suited guys, try to come, and there's a huge group of them. It's like they blot out the sky with how much they are, like thousands upon thousands of people, and just Superman does this washing machine swirl in the middle of the air, blasting everyone with his eye beams and like making people fall out of the sky like clay pigeons. That was a good combat scene, but it was also really leaned heavily into the potential of an evil Superman. for some reason. I don't know why, because it didn't feel like a wholesome way for Superman to dispatch enemies. I would have much rather seen him like create a tornado or suck them up or like freeze breath them out of the sky or something. That would have been maybe different, but I don't know. That was another, like, that's just me. Maybe I'm just being too nitpicky about the combat scene in general. So it starts off with narrative whiplash, and then we get to see Crypto. But Crypto is not a good dog. Crypto is a bad dog. Crypto doesn't do what Superman wants him to do. And then by the end of the movie, we realize that this is not even his dog. Crypto is not Superman's dog, but he's actually Supergirl's dog. And Supergirl has given him to take care of while she's out partying on red sun planets where she can get drunk and have fun, and she's all about partying and not about taking care of the planet and the completely thing. Yeah, so that element of the story was also a little bit weird for me, like that part. But I'm not going to go too much into that for whatever reason. So coming back to the story, we start off with Superman fighting a metal suited man, Fist of Bavaria. I don't know what that place was called. I didn't even pay attention at that point. Yeah, so that Russia analog, there's the guy who pretends to be from that place and fight Superman, and that was the guy who beat him so hard that he had to go back to the Fortress of Solitude. We do get to see something really interesting that he shows off. James Gunn shows off in this movie that we haven't seen in the previous movie, which is the Superman robots, which is what I really enjoyed seeing them and the way they take care of the Fortress of Solitude for him. There are later combat scenes that happen when Lex invades the Fortress of Solitude using his own robots, and that's really amazing. And like that part was interesting as well. Uh, and The Fortress of Solitude scenes in which they recharge Superman with like concentrated sunlight, and he goes back into the fight. And then Lex is apparently puppeteering this guy who's in the suit that beats up Superman, and yeah, that part was like weird for a second. It was kind of like watching a version of Real Steel in a movie about the Man of Steel. So he's like watching the fight from his computers, and he's directing every move that Superman's antagonist is making. So apparently he's outthinking Superman by he's already prescribed like around 5-10,000 combat moves to this character, and he just goes like, okay, 37B now, 33A now, 53J now, 27D, and all that stuff. That just put me out, because it's like, dude, it's a combat scene and you're like scripting literally scripting a combat scene. And it's like I, that I found that to be a very weird narrative choice. I don't know why, but I just found it to be a weird narrative choice. So after that fight concludes, we start going into more of the day to day of how Superman works, and we get more of Lois there. I actually liked Lois in this compared to the Lois we had in Snyderverse, and partially because this Lois actually connected for some reason. There was a better complement and better sort of like the whole Superman and Lois vibe was very well structured here, because the relationship that Lois had with Superman was complex. It wasn't just simple adoration. It wasn't just it didn't have that darkness that you had in the Snyderverse, and for that reason I did appreciate that part. And Lois herself was a very fleshed out character. She had a very instrumental role in the story as well. Then there are a couple of scenes in which we get to see Justice Gang, which is made up of Green Lantern, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl. Hawkgirl was actually a good choice to add here. After having seen Hawkman in Black Adam, they do a little bit of justice to the way Hawkgirl fights. But I mean, it's neither here nor there, because Hawkgirl is not the best part of this story. she is there, but she's not the best part in my opinion. And I need to figure out a way to bring this up a little, so I think I have to do this. So yeah, that was my whole issue with the Hawk Girl thing. Not enough of Hawk Girl, and not enough really good combat sequences with Hawk. And overall, in this entire movie, the combat is just absolutely lacking. I mean, there's no. Superman's whole shtick is that he has to go up against foes that either rival him in strength or challenges that really take a lot out of him when it comes to, okay, I have strength, but is strength the right tool for this job? So the creative ways in which he uses his strength to solve the problem, that's basically 90% of Superman for me. And for me, there was not a lot of that complex uh, problem solving in the combat scenarios allowed to make me realize, okay, Superman is not just a dumb farmer from Smallville. He's an intelligent character who knows how to wield his strength. I didn't get that feel throughout the movie, except in a few cases where he just basically, for a moment, turns into like evil Superman for me. Like, he's like, okay, I'm done playing with kid gloves. I'm just gonna blow everything up right now. And there was one really good scene about the combat between the members of Lex's team. Uh, the female character, I am honestly, I'm sorry, but the name was so forgettable that it's completely escaped. I think her name was the engineer or something. Uh, the girl with the nano particles inside her body that can create literally any weapon. There was one very creative scene where she uses nanites to basically flood his lungs, and Lex is basically directing her to do that. And how Superman gets rid of it is interesting. Would have appreciated if they had shown slightly a different version of how they did that. But for the for all intents and purposes, that whole sequence was fine. No issues with it whatsoever. That's absolutely okay. I'm okay with how that worked. Uh, but yeah, overall, I mean, when I look back at the movie, when I think about it, I mean, I'm not absolutely impressed with this movie. If they do a sequel, I would love to see more deeper storytelling, more complex emotive moments and character growth moments specifically for Superman. And one really interesting thing was that one thing that I really did not like. There's one thing in this movie that I absolutely, I wouldn't go say I wouldn't say that I just disliked it. I actually hated it, which was the part where they tried to turn Jor-El and Superman's mom into evil people. Like, they literally tried to turn them evil with the recording saying that you're here to dominate Earth and to take as many wives as possible, which is like a weird narrative choice. Honestly, that really did not jive with me, because for all the Superman movies, and especially when you look at Smallville, even if you look at Snyder, it's a combination of his Earth adoptive father's teachings and his biological father's teachings that give him that moral code that makes him Superman. So for Superman to be mistaken about his purpose because he got only half the message, because the other half was uh, damaged in in that transit from Krypton to Earth, uh, and the other half of it being like absolute BS of the vilest order, is just not a good choice in my opinion, because so much of this character has to do with how wholesome he is. And if you take down even one component of that wholesomeness, and if you cast doubt at it, so that makes it sort of like, okay, then why is this character like this? I mean, it's understandable he only got half the message, so he's only building off that, but then he should go into a deeper moral crisis than he does when it comes to this. And there is a very good callback to this. I mean, I'm going to give points to James Gunn where the points need to be given. Where at the end of the movie, he basically comes out and shifts his perspective, because he normally watches scenes of his parents from Krypton, his biological parents, when he's in the recovery chair. But then in the very end of the movie, after he's done fighting everybody and he's back into his fortress of solitude with his robots and crypto, and we get a small cameo appearance by Supergirl. When he asks his robot to turn on videos, the videos are of his family videos with Martha and Jonathan, and that was sort of like a good counterpoint to how his worldview has shifted, and now he's gravitating more towards that. I do, however, feel like Jonathan and Martha in this are not portrayed well enough. I mean, honestly, if you actually ask me, the best parents that have ever been portrayed for Superman have been in the Smallville series, because Jonathan in that is like a force of nature, and Martha also, again, force of nature. Like, absolutely brilliant casting for Smallville parents of Superman. And I think the second best has to be in the Snyder universe, because those parents also play a major role, and especially that scene of the whole controversy about, the scene. So yeah, that thing is also interesting, like cool to say the least. But I would rank Smallville parents at a higher place in the order of the best parents of Superman that we've seen on screen in live action. These parents didn't cut it for me. I mean, I don't know why specifically they didn't, but if I were to actually point my finger at something and say, okay, this is the reason that I didn't like these parents, it's because they're more passive and reactive to situations rather than the ones actually being the impetus of why Superman acts the way he acts. It's not their teaching and guidance that plays a big role into what makes Superman Superman. And Superman himself is Superman, and he just has these parents that are like, okay, I'll get you the boots, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go and save the world today. Also, another big thing that I had a problem with was the advanced tech that Lex had access to. I mean, scientifically, this Lex is even more advanced than the one we've seen in the Injustice games. Man's out here creating his own boom tubes and pocket universes. Like, I'm not kidding, like, he literally has boom tubes. And people who know about the DC universe know where boom tubes are supposed to be used and who uses them specifically. So the particular choice for like having Lex, giving Lex this teleportation technology that he uses, which becomes a very core part of the plot and a very major element of the third act, is kind of weird. And okay, let me talk about Lex here a little bit, because Lex is a very important character here. Lex's portrayal in this movie, not bad at all. Like, I would have to say this is like one of the most decent Lex Luthors that we've gotten. I liked, not completely, but I did like partially the Lex Luthor that Jesse Eisenhower played in Batman v Superman. Not the worst Lex, just more unhinged than you expect. Way more unhinged. And honestly, this Lex does not top the Lex that we see in the DC animated version of things. I mean, just go look at go watch the entire animated Apocalypse arc. Yeah, that's the best Lex. You'll see the best Lex there. Live action has not given you the best Lex Luthor there is. Even the games have done a way better job of giving you a better Lex Luthor than what they've done in the movies, because I don't understand why they don't get actors like, let's say, James Spader to play a person like Lex Luthor. You want somebody who's not completely young but not completely old. You want somebody who is phenomenally intelligent. And this Lex comes across more like a brat. You don't see that higher insidious level of intelligence that even Jesse Eisenhower was able to pull off. I hope I'm not butchering the name here, but that son of Lex that he portrayed in the movie was more insidious coded than the one that we got to see in this one. Jesse wasn't a joke in this one as well, in the new James Gunn version, but he was just too. Oh god. Okay, so if you want to know, if you the best live action Lex is Smallville. Dude, that guy is Lex. That cool, calm demeanor, and that whole psychological battle between Superman and Lex. If you want to see the best live action Superman, you really need to see Smallville, because what was his name? Rosenbaum. I don't know what was his name mixing. Let me just check. Smallville Lex Luthor actor Michael Rosenbaum. Yeah, Michael Rosenbaum. Dude, Michael Rosenbaum played literally legit the best, the absolute best Lex Luthor I have ever seen. It does get corny somewhere because it's obviously a TV series. You're not gonna get the best of every, but in the TV series, considering that it's a smaller structured thing, and you get more character development there, more dialogues, more plot lines moving back and forth. Yeah, that's like Smallville is to date, I think, the best peak Superman content that the world has seen. And I'm not dissing Christopher Reeves at all. For those who know that, if you really want to understand, in my opinion, the best modern day Superman we've seen, it's a tie for me between Tom Welling and obviously what we've seen Superman portrayed as by the king of the nerds, Henry Cavill. It's I would much rather prefer Tom Welling over Henry Cavill. I know it's a controversial statement to make. It's a hot take, but had they taken Tom Welling in the Snyder version of Superman, I think the entire story would have been much more different. It would have been. And one more thing, I don't know most people know this, but Christopher Reeves was actually a part of Smallville. It's kind of like passing on the torch. There's some beautiful, phenomenal scenes of Christopher Reeves and Tom Welling interacting together. And if you haven't watched Smallville yet, I mean, I swear to God, just put down everything else, put out like a chunk a week out of your month, like literally give yourself a staycation and just binge through at least 2 or 3 seasons. The first season is gonna be slightly slow. It's gonna be a different version of Superman for you. It's gonna take you a while to get into the series, but by the second one, you're gonna start understanding what I mean when you have Superman. By the way, don't expect Superman to fly in Smallville until the 10th or maybe the 11th season. It's like really late. He doesn't learn how to fly for the entirety of Smallville. So if you're thinking about flying, no, that they were like, they held out for so long for that part. If you're expecting flight in Smallville, don't. There's absolutely zero flight there. You're gonna see him running everywhere. But yeah, Smallville is really fun, and which is why I actually liked the Snyderverse more, because when we got Man of Steel, I got to see Superman flying properly and like combat and flight. I mean, hands down, in all of Superman history. Every single movie, every single live action, every single even animated version that has been made. Okay, that's going too far, because the animated ones have done like some things that they've done way better than even the live actions. But in live action, only if you just considering live action, I think Man of Steel, the combat in Man of Steel is impactful as hell. I mean, it's the best combat you could have gotten out of that movie. Like, that's phenomenal direction there. Phenomenal. The sensation of speed, the sensation of impact you get. It's 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 grand on a scale that you can't even imagine. So if you're expecting that to translate into James Gunn, I mean, nah, it just doesn't. Because for my personal opinion, I'm not criticizing James Gunn, but I will say this: James Gunn does not completely understand how Superman fights, or maybe he just wanted to stay away from the way Superman fights. But I think he had an understanding enough, because there are some scenes that show off how insanely creative Superman can be during combat, and those small glimmers were enough to like kind of sustain me and get me to the meh stage. Otherwise, I would have called it a bad movie. But this is a meh movie. It's like just okay. It doesn't peak at any point for me. It just putters along, and that's the most insane part of this for me. Like, I am watching a Superman that is like the Superman, the OG Superman, the one that hails its legacy from the Christopher Reeves version, the kind that hails its legacy from the Smallville version of Superman. And he's even better, he's even more of a Boy Scout here than he has been in Smallville, which is like fun. It could have been fun, but I don't know why there were things in this that just dragged down the vibe. So just concluding it, because it's a 30-minute video at this point, and I don't want to extend it any further. It's a good movie. You should go out and watch it. Don't give in to all the marketing hoopla that you're hearing from both sides of the American political system, because none of that is the movie. The movie stands on its own. If you call it an apolitical movie, you'll be doing it a disservice, because it does have a little bit of hints of modern day geopolitics. If you call it a completely political movie, then you're missing the mark, because that's literally just one small part of an overarching arc that has multiple plot lines and things going on for it. So go watch. It's not something you shouldn't not watch, but watch it with a grain of salt, and do watch Smallville right after, so that you get the best version of Superman. Maybe just consider watching the animated versions. I don't know why the people who make the animated don't step up and make the live action. I mean, DC animated is like way more grittier, way more DC than live action DC. And calling in people like Joss Whedon or calling in people like James Gunn, okay, that does wonders for movies like The Suicide Squad, which was phenomenal compared to the first one. Even though the first one was like okay, I mean, not the worst movie ever by DC, but it's like down there. It's way down there in the list of movies they've made. But yeah, DC is struggling. And I think honestly, just in conclusion, just about DC, they're beyond saving at this point. I mean, everybody's given them chance after chance after chance, and they've always dropped the ball. They've never created a product that people can back. And when they do, it's on accident, or maybe when they're trying to double down. There are some good things that they've done recently, but overall not satisfied. As personally, as a person who enjoys watching this kind of content, I am neither satisfied with the direction that Marvel has taken ever since they concluded their Infinity War saga. Avengers Part 2 was the last movie that I ever watched properly, and after that, the series, maybe I watched WandaVision. And after that, pretty much nothing. I even watched. What was that? Miss Marvel, I think. Yeah, the one with Kamala Khan. And I had really strong thoughts about that as well, because Karachi was not Karachi there. They didn't portray Pakistan properly. She comes back to Pakistan, but it's not even Pakistan. And the pre-partition stuff was like, okay, shoehorned in a little bit, part of the storytelling. They used actors from Pakistan, yes, fine. Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy was the one directing it, fine. But it wasn't as Pakistani quoted as it could have been. Like, there's a way richer culture there, a way richer storytelling mechanism there, if you wanted to connect it to Marvel. And the origin of the bangles is never explained there, so again, that's weird. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about DC right now, and DC is, in my opinion, on a ventilator. Maybe stepping out of the coma, but not completely, nor lucid at this point. Hell, honestly, at this point, I'm done with both, and I just want somebody to remake a Spawn movie. I just want to be live action Spawn again, to wash my brain of all the stuff that I've seen from all these other properties. A live action Spawn in with modern day CGI would be epic. I think that would be a really good product. So I guess this is where I'll end the video. It's almost 40 minutes long. Thank you so much for watching. If you end up watching to this up to the end, I know my style is not perfect and I'm not the best talker, but still, thank you for watching, and see you again soon. Bye.